A little quick video on partial versus full range of motion reps, which better. Before I do that though, be sure to subscribe and like. You can give the video a try first if you don't see if you like it. But so if you haven't been watching for a while and you haven't subscribed, please subscribe. That helps grow the channel, as they say. All right, let's get to it. So partial reps, full range of motion. What should you do? So to start with, in general, full range of motion is always going to be the best idea. So think of a rep as two pieces. Okay, and this is, I'm simplifying, okay, but two pieces. You have the lengthening phase, eccentric, right, where you stretch the muscle. You want to make sure you stretch that muscle as much as you can. Muscle responds to lengthened positions. Okay, it really likes to be stretched. This is like an RDL, and we'll talk a little bit more why this is as well. But an RDL, or a stiff-legged deadlift, really lights up your hamstrings, even more so than a seated hamstring curl, right, or leg curl, or a prone hamstring curl, right? I mean, yes, you can get lit up on those, but nothing like the RDL or the stiff-legged deadlift. Okay, so really, that just kind of highlights stretch the muscle. If you're doing a lean lateral raise, right, for your lateral delts, let's say a cable lean lateral raise. I mean, really let that cable sweep. This is where cable can be helpful with lateral delts. It's a little bit harder to do this with a dumbbell because the cable will pull your arm across your body, right? So if you can envision doing that, or even just a regular lateral raise, not to be leaned, but let that cable pull that deltoid, that lateral delt, really stretch it across your body, so you get a huge range of motion, right? And then go through that full arc on the way up. If you're doing a lean lateral, make sure you get up nice and high. You're gonna get that upper trap fiber activation. That's why you do a leaned. One of the reasons that you do a lean lateral raise. But even if it's a regular one, right? Just really get that full range of motion. But it's that downside. You know what I mean? Like when you lower the cable, that's where a lot of that range of motion benefit is. So that's the stretch side, and the shortening side is just kind of what I said. Is, go through a full range of motion at the top. That's a little bit more metabolic, just because you have to do more work. Okay, so again, I'm simplifying here, but the stretch and the metabolic combination is pretty powerful, right? In growth, the stretch especially. Okay. So what about partial reps? Are those a good idea? They could be. All right. If you watch my channel, I put up a video last year on a paper. It was in the fall of 2023 about the length tension relationship, and that some muscles obviously lend themselves to be stretched and other muscles not as much. So let's go back to the RDL thing. If you are in an anatomical position, so you're just standing up straight up, this is an anatomical position with your palms forward, right, facing forward, like you're going to give somebody a low five, right? If you bend over and touch your toes, okay, from that position, you have stretched your biceps or femoris. Okay, you've stretched your hamstrings. Okay, if you're in that same standing position again though, and you do arm flexion, elbow flexion, excuse me, and you shorten your biceps brachii, right? So your biceps that we traditionally call our biceps. All you're doing there is shortening it. You can't stretch that biceps, at least at the elbow. If you did, you'd hyperextend your elbow. So I hope that makes sense. Like, you don't really feel a powerful stretch in your biceps in your upper arm, right? Biceps brachii, okay? Because your elbow stops that range of motion. Where the hamstrings, when you go over the side, you can really stretch the hamstrings because you can go beyond its resting length. So there's some movements in the body that will lend themselves to being having a greater stretch, and those are the exercises that you could do partial reps. Okay, I'm not a big partial rep fan, so don't hear me saying do partial reps, because if you do a full range of motion, you get both the stretch and the shortening benefit. If you just do partials, then you're only going to really get the stretch part. Okay, that may be beneficial for some reason. Maybe it's a finisher, maybe something like that. But doing that all the time by itself may not be a great idea. So let's put it back in the lateral raise example. Okay, you do full range of motion, 3 by 12, 3 by 15, whatever. All right, we'll talk about going to failure in a future video. You could do partials just at the bottom, where you go from that big stretch, right? You let that cable really pull your arm across your body, and you only go halfway up to finish. Maybe you do, you're really smoked, on that 15 rep or the 12 rep, whatever I said it was, 12 reps, let's say, and you were close to fail, and you're like, I'm just going to smoke out another 5 at the bottom here. That could be a time to use partial reps. But to use them alone, probably doesn't make a whole lot of sense, right? I do think there's benefit. I just gave you an example of that. As a finisher, you can't get through the full range of motion. You're going to do some forced reps through that lower, that lower range of motion. Okay. Exercises, again, you got to kind of think through though, which exercises make sense for this. So even like something like the biceps brachii, like a preacher curl or a concentration curl, partials probably don't make a whole lot of sense because that's it's really a shortening only activity. Now, you can take that same muscle, biceps brachii, and put it in a lengthened position through the shoulder because it's a 2-joint muscle. So you could do an incline where you're seated, and your arms are behind you, right, because of that incline. And that has put the muscle on stretch through the shoulder. Now, it also can cause a lot of shoulder irritation, but that is a way, you could do some, if you've done that exercise before, that puts a lot of tension on that biceps through that, the end that's proximal end, the end that's close to the shoulder. But that could be a place that you could do, you could do some partials in that position. Okay. It's a little bit clunky, but I think you kind of see that. The lateral raises, I mentioned that, right? You can really open that again from anatomical position. Can you stretch the muscle? Hamstrings, certainly. Just be careful with that because you get pretty tore up doing that. That could be an exercise where, again, you can do some maybe beneficial partial reps. Okay. Calf raises, right? I mean, you can go from, your standing position, if it's a deficit calf raise, like where your heels drop below the surface you're standing on, those could be some partials because, again, you're stretching the calf beyond its typical anatomical position. Okay. Glute work, you could do hip thruster exercises. You could do, I am a fan of this exercise. Okay. It's more of a compound exercise, obviously, and that is the 1 1/4 squats. Love 1 1/4 squats, both for hypertrophy and strength. Okay, and the time under tension is just really, really high too for each rep. But you go all the way down, full depth, because that'll stretch. Remember, if you break parallel, if you break 90, that's when you stretch that glute, because that's what we're trying to do is really stretch that glute, right? So you stretch the glute, you get nice and deep. This is not a very heavy exercise. Okay, it could be done with a dumbbell or a Smith machine could be really nice here for hypertrophy purposes. You can do it in strength, but it's more about speed then, so it's going to be a lighter load. But go all the way down, halfway up, or a quarter. I like halfway. I'll tell individuals halfway because when they end up doing halfway, it's more like a quarter. You tell somebody a quarter, they barely come up off the bottom, right? But come out and then go all the way back down again, and then stand up. That's 1 rep. You're basically doing a full range of motion. You're doing a partial rep embedded in a full range of motion rep. Okay. You could do the same thing for the bench, right? I'll be honest with you. I have never done this, but you could, right? So you can go all the way down. You think about it when your elbows are behind your body, like you've stretched the pec, okay, beyond its typical anatomical length, right? And then as the bar comes up and your elbows get past your midline, now the pec is getting shortened. Okay, so it's hypothetically you go all the way down, come up just a little bit off your chest, maybe 2 to 3 inches, maybe 3 inches, maybe, and then back down and then go back up again. That probably smoke your chest a little bit more. So those are just some things to think about when we think about partials and full range. Is it good to do a partial? Again, I'm going to go back to there could be some nice benefits from them if you need a little bit more stimulus. If you're just getting started, full range of motion. If you're crunched for time, full range of motion. If you want to do a finisher for the crunch for time, partial might be okay at the end. I'm not advocating partials. I am just saying they could be a nice tool in your tool bag. I've used them before with clients, and I've used them myself. I used them with athletes that I've trained, especially like the 1 1/4 squat. Again, it's more of a speed thing where you come up and pull down and then go up fast. That's a little bit different kind of stimulus, but they can be helpful there too. All right, see you guys in the next one. Again, like and subscribe. More videos coming. I hope you're enjoying them.